for being here today. My name is Lindsay McHolme. I'm the director of the Community Literacy Initiative, which is a literacy coalition that seeks to improve literacy for all ages in the community. We are facilitated by the Literacy Center of West Michigan, but the community really runs us. So we have an advisory council of leaders in the education and business and government fields to really push forward the issue of literacy in our community. So today what we're going to do is talk about volunteerism, something that we've heard from you that you want to learn more about. But I wanted to start by introducing you to Reverend Peggy Burns, and she's going to talk a little bit about the Gerontology Network since we're here today, and then we'll start the panel. So, Peggy.
Welcome. It is a pleasure to have you all come to our Gerontology Network. Actually, this is sort of the corporate headquarters, so we do have other buildings next door, 516, and we also have the huge building out on 800 Eastbound Line. Gerontology Network has been around for 39 years, and we have a long history in the community of providing services to older adults. The program that I direct actually is the only intergenerational program at Gerontology Network. All the other programs are for seniors. And I mean seniors that we have seniors helping seniors through the Senior Companion Program. We also have an adult day program, which is, one is housed right next door at 516, and the largest is out at the 800 Eastbound Line. We also have counselors that help older adults with different issues. We also have a resource center, and it's called Outreach and Assistance. And a person can call in if they need help. They are more than willing to call in, more than able to call into our Outreach and Assistance program to get help that they need. We are doing things in the community that actually, and I can say in a sense that nobody else is doing, in that we have a continuum of services for older adults. And we say that we work with those that are able to do for themselves to those that are not able to do for themselves. So again, we will be celebrating our anniversary next year, and 40 years. Wow. 40 years next year. So it is a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to talk a little bit later about our older adult volunteer program, and I think that's what you really want to hear about. But thank you so much for coming, and hope you enjoy the panel.
Does anyone have questions for Reverend Peggy Burns before we begin? Okay, we'll have lots of questions later, I hope. Okay, well, the first thing I wanted to let you know is that there are bathrooms to the back and to the front. Is that true? So, oh, right behind that wall. So anytime you need to get up during the discussion today, that's totally fine. There's also water. I know it's a little bit warm in here, so if you need to stand up, we don't want anyone passing out. Feel free to just get up and use the water over there. It's for you. I'm going to be passing around a registration list. If you could please fill in your name if you're not already on here, or mark an X next to your name if you haven't already. One of the things we usually do at our neighborhood literacy forums is share opportunities and needs. Today, Kristen and I were guessing that we'll most likely end up talking for the entire hour with this panel. So what I'd like you to do, if you can, or if you have something to share, at the back of this registration sheet, there's a needs and opportunities list here. So if you could just fill in your name and your organization and any needs or opportunities your organization has for the rest of the literacy providers here, that would be great. And afterwards, if we do have time, we can talk about those. And if not, Kristen will send out an email to all of you that lists all of the opportunities and needs that we would otherwise have just talked about. Any questions about that? Okay, thank you. I'll just pass that around. Feel free to take your time on that. And before we begin, I wanted to let you know a little bit why we decided to do this. So if you look in front of you, I put a literacy volunteer report. There was a partnership between Grand Valley State University and the Community Literacy Initiative based on community needs assessments we had done over the past 2 years. We heard from the community that volunteerism was something that we wanted to work on. So we surveyed about 28 different literacy providers, and we found out that more than 1,000 learners, both children and adults, are waiting for help in reading and English as a second language and writing. over 1,000, just with 28 organizations. And within these 28 organizations, they said that they needed about 1,500 volunteers working with them. So this is a big need in our community, and we're excited that all of you have gathered here. We have people who couldn't get into this discussion today. We had so many people RSVP, so that's why we're filming, so that we can post on our website. And if you want to share this with anyone who might be interested, please do so. We'll let you know what that link is afterwards. Recently, we've been putting together a Hope Zone report about needs in our community, and we found out that in the Central Hope Zone and the South Hope Zone, a very large need is for volunteers. So we're excited to have these experts here. We have Reverend Peggy Burns from Gerontology Network, Valerie Emmenecker from the Literacy Center of West Michigan, Megan Kruis from Calvin College, Jane Royer from Heart of West Michigan United Way, and then Sara Stachon Durham from Kids Food Basket. So the way we'll run this panel today, I'm going to have each of them just give us a 60-second rundown of generally how they're working with volunteers in their organization. And then we have 3 main topics that I will ask them to talk about, and after that we'll open it up for discussion so any of you can ask questions to our panel of experts. So we'll start with Peggy.
Well, I am Vice President of Older Adult Volunteer Services here at Gerontology Network. And what that means is I direct 4 programs, and they're all intergenerational programs. Foster Grandparent, which is celebrating next year, 50 years nationwide. And Traveling Grannies and Grandpas is the other program that actually was created here at Gerontology Network, and we are in our 21st anniversary here. The other program is Experience Corps, and that's a national program as well. It's been with Gerontology Network for 7 years. And we have a project that's called Project Catch Up, and it's for 4th graders that are in 4th grade but are not reading at grade level. We have volunteers going into the 4th grade, helping them get to grade level and beyond. Opportunities for volunteerism for us, we have, with all of our programs, which includes the Senior Companion, about 160 volunteers. The intergenerational programs are in schools, Head Start programs, child care programs, any place that there are kids. We tend to have a continuum because we work with children from 0 in child care to about 21 years of age and over in places such as Gerald R. Ford Job Corps. We have volunteers in most of Grand Rapids Public Schools. We're now in Wyoming and Kentwood as well. So Sparta, we're looking to go to Cedar Springs. So, pretty much as far as school is concerned and academic support, we pretty much are where the needs are. Dollars constrict us, of course, everybody. You don't have enough money to meet the needs, but as far as trying to meet the needs, we try to do that as much as possible.
Great, thank you.
My name is Valerie Emmenecker. I'm a literacy coordinator for the adult tutoring program at the Literacy Center of West Michigan. Our program is a one-on-one tutoring program for adults reading below the 9th grade reading level. We serve native and non-native speakers of English. In our last program year, we had about 300 adults matched with volunteer tutors. We have a partnership with the Head Start program, so in addition to receiving a tutor, our students that have kids in Head Start can attend family activity nights. The adult tutoring program is volunteer-based, and so without volunteers, we don't have a program. And in the past year, we had 219 tutors volunteer for us. And we had 85 new tutors trained.
Thank you.
I'm Megan Kruis. I'm an associate director in the Service Learning Center at Calvin College. So we, first of all, what is service learning as opposed to volunteering? We do, in our program, sort of make a distinction about that because we want to acknowledge that for students, what's happening is that they're providing a service to an organization or community, but it's also an opportunity for them to learn, whether that is like direct connection to their classes, perhaps something that's required or offered as an option for a class, or if it's just something that is like contributing to their development and their formation. So when we work with organizations, we really want to encourage and empower those organizations to see themselves as educators of our students, and to offer them the expertise that you have and to show them how to care for their communities.
Thank you.
And I'm Jane Royer. I'm the director of the Volunteer Center at Heart of West Michigan United Way. I come to this topic really from two different perspectives. One, as a person who manages volunteers for my internal program, and then secondly, as the director of the Volunteer Center. And a Volunteer Center is a community resource that helps to connect people who want to volunteer with the organizations that need their help. So in that way, we're kind of like a 211. You're familiar with 211? We have a database at the Volunteer Center of different organizations and their volunteer needs. And then we try to make those known in the community and make those connections. So you are all welcome to use our database. If you go to volunteercentergr.org and click on volunteer, you can get into our database and post your opportunities, and we can help to promote those opportunities in the community. We have a lot of corporate partners that we work with, and a lot of individuals as well.
Okay. My name is Sara Stachon, Durham, and I work with Kids Food Basket. My role, my title is Special Projects Manager. I kind of have my hands in a lot of different things, a lot of different initiatives in the organization. I'm kind of our staff champion that's leading our diversity and inclusion initiative currently, but I helped launch our new scheduling software, Volunteer Hub, that we started using. We are kind of unique in the sense where we rely on 175 volunteers each and every weekday to carry out our mission. We serve 5,400 kids in Greater Grand Rapids. We provide them with, we call it a sack supper. They are delivered to the school at the end of the school day, and they take home for dinner. So 25% of our volunteer hours come from youth, so under 18. And anyone can volunteer with our organization. We say 5 to 95. So we're very welcome with volunteers. We literally could not do the work we do without volunteers. So, and I'll stop there. I'll go into other things.
So why don't we start off with our first topic. I mentioned earlier that our community, even just within 28 different literacy providers, needs more than 1,500 volunteers, right? So what are some of your best practices for recruiting volunteers, and then particularly through the lens of racial equity and inclusion?
Our best practice is word of mouth. Our volunteers work in the school one-on-one with students. Sometimes we get volunteers from the school that's already working in the school, but it's the volunteers themselves that talk to their friends and their families and get them enthused about what they're doing, and we get volunteers that way. We've tried flyers, they may come in striking with flyers, but we try little contests. Our best recruitment effort is volunteers. And another good thing that kind of help us out as well, our volunteers receive a stipend. A non-taxable stipend that is about $265 an hour, not about, $265 an hour, which is about $212 tax-free each month. It's the only program in the nation that cannot be taxed. Those dollars cannot be taxed. So that's really a drawing point for a lot of people, and they may come in for that reason, but then they get to love what they're doing, and they boast to their friends and family about what they're doing, and that's how we get more volunteers.
Do you provide your volunteers with talking points then?
No, we tell them come from behind.
Okay.
Because that'll get them every time.
We kind of do the same thing. It's all a lot of word of mouth. For new volunteers that come in our door, we also provide a tour of our facility and kind of tell our story. So it's equipping them also, so when they leave our facility, they're learning more about the issue of childhood hunger and
actually West Michigan. We have a Muskegon location as well. So it's equipping them, storytelling. You know, we have a lot of stories we keep to share with people about the kids that are receiving the sack suppers and the impact that we're making. So that also helps kind of embed that into people's, and a lot for us is the volunteer experience. It's very, very important to us that everyone has a really great experience when they come through our doors. So, and wanting to come back. So, and relationships are key too.
I just want to back up and talk a little bit about the racial equity and inclusion. The majority of our volunteers are minority, either African American or Hispanic volunteers. And I'm going to say about 85% would be minority. But what we try not to do is to limit our volunteers to work with the same racial group that they are. They work with kids. We don't care what color they are. We don't care, you know, their religion or background. We want to work with kids. And through doing that, a lot of myths have been broken about kids, about older adults. People, you know, look at older adults, oh, what do they know? They need to go, you know. They learn from each other, and that is really key for us. Another key piece for us for the racial equity is a lot of our volunteers live in the community they work. So they get a chance to see the kids outside of the schools, outside of the Head Start programs, and that makes a big difference as well.
I want to provide a kind of a different perspective. One of the things I think that people need to be aware of is the trends in volunteering and how that's kind of changing. And I think that does affect the way we approach our recruitment and management efforts. For recruitment, one of the key things now is that the people are not as willing to commit to a regular scheduled opportunity and have that be such a rigid kind of time frame. So what people are looking for, I think a lot of times, is flexibility in their volunteer opportunities. And one thing you might think about, since you are trying to recruit tutors and mentors and that kind of thing, is something that I call tag team volunteers. And that is just a concept where you allow people, 2 or 3 people, to job share. And maybe they have the same student. But I think if you want to do that, you need to think about having that team own that particular body of work, whatever it might be, and manage the schedule themselves. And that way, that takes a lot of work off of you. So you're having 2 or 3 people who are filling a slot, essentially, for you. That allows them the flexibility, and it allows you to attract more tutors and mentors. That is a strategy that we've used in Schools of Hope, and it is a strategy that some companies like, because, you know, I can do it with my coworkers, and that way I can talk about my experience too with my coworkers. We can figure out, you know, how we're going to do the best job, that sort of thing. And then I wanted to also mention a couple of things in terms of racial equity and that sort of thing. You know, from my perspective, if you live with a commitment to diversity, that really is what enables you to attract diverse people into your organization. So I would ask myself, you know, what kind of things am I doing so that I have personal relationships with individuals of color that I can reach out to and invite them to volunteer with me? You know, am I using social media, for example? I've had really success with recruitment efforts by giving staff members of color opportunities to use social media and reach out to their own networks. So if you don't have that particular network, make sure someone in your organization is providing some of those things for you. I think it's important to have diversity mentors. I think it's important to attend a lot of diversity events. I think it's important to, if you have the opportunity to use diverse vendors in your organization, all of this creates a culture where people feel like they are welcomed and can participate with you in the work that you're doing.
In the adult tutoring program, one of our strongest partnerships is with the local libraries, Grand Rapids Public and Kent District Library. We distribute tutor orientation flyers at all of the libraries at least every 6 months. We provide the librarians with those dates too, and we get lots of referrals from them. We partner with our fund development department, so whenever we are looking for new donors in the community, we're also looking for new volunteers. So at our most recent event, or not most recent, but something that we started, a luncheon for literacy, we got lots of new donors, but we also got lots of people interested in becoming tutors. For diversity, we like to attend events in the community that in areas where our students are living, and hope to attract people in those communities to become volunteers as well. We have presented at churches, churches with predominantly Spanish-speaking populations, as our student population is about 50% Latino, and we've had some success with that. We have a newsletter, a student and tutor newsletter, where we share learner stories, and we find those to be extremely powerful tools to attract new volunteers.
I would say from the college and university perspective, in terms of recruitment, each one in the Grand Rapids area has sort of unique paths in and different needs also. Some are looking for more like internship level things, some are looking for more one-time opportunities, some are looking for, you know, regular once a week or every other week kind of opportunities. So my encouragement on connecting with the colleges and universities would be to connect with staff people in service learning or internship offices, and to find out what exactly their needs for their students are and how to connect with those. Everybody will have a different way of getting the word out about things. We have a weekly listserv that goes out to about 1,000 students about opportunities that come up. Those are mostly one-time things, but when we don't have a lot to put in it, we put in stuff that's not one-time. So yeah, I think it really has to do with building relationships and seeing the internship or service learning offices as a resource, and to build relationships so that you can stay connected and find out, you know, if they know what the issues are in your organization, what you need, then when we hear from a professor that the professor needs some kind of project for something, or a student organization wants to get involved with a certain issue, then we can make those connections.
Does anyone else have any other comments before we move on? While they're thinking, our first topic was recruitment. So if you have a question about recruitment, if you could write that down so you don't forget it at the end when we start asking questions. If anyone needs a pencil, I can pass them around. You need to take notes.
I'll add that we try to respond to all media requests, if it's print, radio, or television, and I find that is a really great tool as well.
I do have a handout about tag team volunteering if anybody is interested in that, so I'll put that there.
Sure. Pass it around for you. Thanks. Okay, well, why don't we move on to the next topic? Don't forget to write down your questions. The next topic is, so all of you seem to be experts in recruitment. What do you do to keep your volunteers then?
Guess I'll go first. I think a volunteer will stay as long as possible if they get training. If we make them feel as if they are really important, which they really, really are, we tell them as often as possible. We try to do little nice things for them, little extra things for them to let them know that we appreciate them. And I think and I don't want to keep going back to the stipend, but for an older adult that's low income, that's a big deal. You know, and you don't have, it won't affect any benefits that you have. It's a big deal. $212 free and clear every month, and they can't count it against your food stamps. Again, anything you get, you know, it cannot be counted against. So, and Do we get sometimes volunteers that are not a good fit? Yeah, we do. But for the most part, once the volunteers get to meet the kids and meet the teachers, they're stuck. They're stuck. I mean, we have volunteers that's been in the program 30 years. Seriously, 30 years. So there is a commitment. And what I'm finding also, and I don't want to take all the time, but what I'm finding also is that our volunteers, because they are, and I don't want to label them as low income, but most of them are low income, feel as if you're giving me something, I'm going to make a commitment. And I'm going to do what I need to do because I feel like, you know, I made a commitment to do this. And even though it's only $2.65 an hour, it's the way they were brought up, their values, and, you know, I need to give back and I need to be committed to this. So our retention rate is, we lose very few. Now we get them to go on leave of absence, but most of them come back. So yeah, we have some volunteers that's been in the program a long, long time.
I agree that ongoing training and recognition are really important. We offer trainings to our tutors as often as possible. We do a survey every June to ask them what they want, and whatever it is they want, we make sure those are the trainings that we give. They are interested in things like phonics, learning disabilities, homework ideas, working with a language learner. Also, once a pair has been together for 6 months, we'll do what we call a progress report. And a progress report is when we go over the goals of the learner, see how their progress is, if they need new materials or suggestions, but that's also an opportunity for us to congratulate the pair for making it 6 months and see if they want to go another 6. And I've never heard someone say that they don't want to continue. We have a couple events like our annual celebration where we do a tutor of the year, and we have tutor and learner speakers that are very inspirational. They have constant support from their literacy coordinator, and we let those volunteers know that our most important job of everything that we do is to support them and that we are there 24/7 for them. Another thing that I think is really important is to show our volunteers in the community in general that we're a learner-centered organization. And I think that the volunteers respond so positively because they know we're all on the same page.
I would say we don't, within our own office, do much for like volunteer recognition or retention exactly. That's, we're sort of like in between the students who do service learning in the organization, so we rely on you to manage them as volunteers. And it is important, I think, when working with college students to acknowledge the limitations of their schedule, and so like they just won't retain forever probably because maybe what they were doing with your organization worked for a semester or worked for a summer that they had off, but 3 to 4 months later things can drastically change for them. But within that time, I think there's a lot of really great possibility for organization staff and that experience to really inspire them, and they'll talk about it with their friends. They might even like approach a professor and say, you know, I had this experience and I think like it really underscored what we were learning in your class and you could do more with this. And we have had some really remarkable stories then where the professor kind of took that up and ended up making service learning part of a class. So yeah, what did I say about that?
Okay, I want to go back a little bit to my point earlier about the new volunteer and kind of what they're looking for in their volunteer experience. One thing I think is that it's important to find the right person for the job to begin with, and so that will really help you retain people. And I think that a longer interview is usually better in today's world. Also, I think that the volunteer coming to you feels better about that experience if they're really seriously interviewed and considered. So I also want to go back to what Peggy said about the culture that you have in your organization and sort of I always call it the sense of warmth and inclusion that you can project to your volunteers. And so I think it's really important to make them feel connected to the mission of your organization and to make them feel a part of the work that you're doing. It has to be a reciprocal relationship where you're sharing information with them and then asking them for their feedback and their perspective on what needs to be done. So many times you get some really great people who are going to have a lot to offer your organization, and it can no longer be a one-way street. They want to be participating in a very full way in the work that you're doing. So along those lines too, you know, increase the levels of responsibility that they have if you can do that. That makes a big impression on them and they'll want to stay with you longer. And provide kind of supervision to them as if you would a regular employee. And then if they're leaving, you want to do that exit interview so you validate their experience with the organization and you learn from that volunteer's perspective.
I was really going to talk about connected to the mission and using visuals. We're big on visuals. So when you come into our doors, it's not, we have the kids that we serve write letters to us and tell us how much they appreciate the sack supper and their favorite thing, and they're colorful and they're, you know, on old school, like the blue line paper, and they're up everywhere. So it's very fun and engaging, and you can feel, we always hear volunteers say, I feel like, you know, I did something today. I fed a kid today. So it's very impactful, and just having them connected. Our facility is very much a warehouse, and we go through 30,000 pounds of food a week. So we have visuals up of that because it's one thing to show you, but to tell you, you know, in numbers. So that feeling connected to the mission is really important, and it's part of our we call it our volunteer experience. It is very important to us. We also have we call it multiple ways to get involved with our mission. So one of the ways you can always get involved is decorating a bag. So the kids love to get their sack supper with it decorated. It doesn't have to be, you know, the best artist in town. Just even, you know, have a great day. We hear tons of stories about that. So that's one way to get involved. We always say money, time, and food, so people can donate juice boxes that then go into the sack supper. So there's multiple ways that we utilize volunteers to kind of carry out our mission.
Anyone have anything else you'd like to add?
I guess I'd like to add a little bit about retaining volunteers that are diverse, going back to the original question about recruiting diverse people to participate in your programs. I think it's really important to have an open attitude that you're going to learn in the process. And from my own experience, I would say that there's always things that come up in managing diversity. And you want to communicate that this is a journey that you're on with them, and that you will discuss anything that comes up and you'll handle it and you'll move forward. And so it's that same feeling of warmth and inclusion and working with people that you always want to convey. And yeah, that goes a long way.
Okay, thank you. So our second topic was retention. If you have extra questions about retention that you'd like to ask at the end, please don't forget to write them down so you don't forget them later. Our third question, and I know we touched on this one a little bit, so we won't spend maybe as much time on it, but I'm wondering if any of you do anything in particular for recognizing your volunteers as a piece of retention.
Again. We tell our volunteers regularly that how much we appreciate them, but we used to have in April a big recognition that cost our arm and a leg and a lot of work, and we decided that we were going to do it around the holidays so that we could give them a much nicer gift. And we've been doing it for the last 5 years, PJ, about 5 years. what we do is at Christmas time, we have a huge luncheon. It's part of our recognition. We'll have speakers come in, or sometimes we just do the Christmas thing. But we buy really nice gifts. And because they're older adults, we know that a lot of their income is kind of divvied out all year. So we make it a point of giving them Meyer gift cards. And for the last couple of years, we've given them $50 in Meyer gift cards. We also give them the planner. They love those. We do nice food. We give them snacks. We just make it a big deal for them, and they really, really like that. Because we're able to give them more now than we would if we were having a special recognition. We give the money to the volunteers, put it into them.
We have the celebration event, which I had mentioned. We have an annual picnic every August where the tutors invite their families, learners invite their families, staff invites their family, so everyone gets to come together for a very informal and fun potluck where we recognize the volunteers and the learners for their hard work. We also have some gifts that we give away at the progress reports. We give them things like books for their bags, or whiteboards, pad folios, things that they can use in their tutoring sessions, but also things they're going to be carrying around in the community, so someone else is going to see their literacy center bag and maybe ask them what that is. We invite our tutors and learners to be involved in speaking engagements, and I think that gives them a time to show off all the things that they've been working on, highlight the learners' progress, but also give the volunteer an opportunity to tell the community about the great work that they've been doing.
We have some celebrations and sorts of things for student leaders, more than just the average service learner. I think college students and food is a little bit of a cliche, but we find that it is true. Yeah, we might have like a dessert or a dinner or something for our student leaders who help manage programs and help to facilitate service learning for other students.
I like to think about giving both general recognition to volunteers and also very individual recognition to volunteers. And a part of that is just knowing who the people are and what it would be that they would enjoy. And sometimes it's not even, something that you give them like tangible. It could be taking them to a meeting that they might find really interesting, or allowing them a particular kind of professional development experience. I think that's really good. And again, it's just tailoring that opportunity to what they might be interested in. Or maybe they want to, get to know your CEO better. And, it's just, it can be anything. But I think the key to remember is just really listening to your volunteers and knowing them. And then just like you would a personal friend, try to think of what they would like and then give that to them. And the other thing is that just sometimes just on the spot saying, wow, you did that. Or, also having the kids give feedback. That's huge. Nothing feels better than, I was tutoring one time, and we had this experience where the kids got to step in and say, we were in a circle, and the kids got to step in and say something about their mentor. Oh my gosh, the things that those kids said. It was just like, one kid said, I've been working with David, the guy standing next to me, for 2 years. I wish he was my dad.
Oh.
Things like that,
As far as recognition goes, we have one event. It's always usually it's actually in June for us, because our service goes off the school schedule, so it's really hectic for us to do anything during school. So it's usually the last, it's the Friday of the last week of school, and it's really a big party, and we put it on, and staff kind of runs the show. People can show up, and it's lunch, breakfast, dinner, and you can just come and kind of, talk to us, but it's a time for staff to really kind of appreciate our volunteers. We also do a thank you every day. Staff goes out all the time to thank people and just, thank you so much for your time, thanks for coming in. Another thing we kind of do, this is kind of a retention recognition thing. Your first time volunteering with us, we have a big cooler. You come in, you volunteer, and you leave. You can sign the cooler. So it's kind of leaving your footprint on the community. You're part of the impact of our community. The second time you volunteer, you come back again, you get a T-shirt. So again, it's like pushing that out in the community. It's just our logo and our phone number and website on it. But it's a good, kind of a tool. Kids, they want to get that T-shirt to come back. We have facilitators that come in at night to help kind of oversee all the other volunteers. We do specific recognition. We give them aprons. Drivers that deliver the sack suppers to the schools, we've given hats so they're recognized too. So it's kind of tailoring that to specific duties as well.
We also do T-shirts, sweatshirts, they have the tote bags, and we want them to wear them as part of their uniform, so as much as possible.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Our third topic was recognition. And I guess I have volunteered several times for all sorts of organizations in the community, including at the Literacy Center where we work. And I know that sometimes it can be really frustrating to be a volunteer, and I know sometimes it can be very rewarding. And I also know, having been a literacy coordinator and a coordinator of volunteers, that it can be very rewarding and very frustrating as well. So that's kind of why Kristen and I decided to ask this final question. We, the audience, would like to know from you, the experts, one little piece of secret ninja advice about working with volunteers. What can you tell us that can really build our programs with our volunteers?
Even though our mission is the same and all the volunteers do the same, they don't do it exactly the same way. So try to treat them as individuals as much as possible. Recognize that they are people and be flexible. Sometimes it takes a lot of flexibility to, get a person, and maybe they're not feeling it right now. But you know that there's potential there, and if you kind of groom that person, encourage that person, then I think you're going to get really good volunteers. So don't treat them cookie cutter. Everybody's individual, even though they may be doing the same work, they're not doing it the same way.
Sort of similar. I think it's important to make all your volunteers feel special. That can come from listening to their stories. Maybe it's about their tutoring experience, or maybe it's just about their personal lives. I think I know a lot about my tutors' personal lives, and so I can ask them about how they're doing after that car accident, or the surgery, or they just sent their kid off to college, things like that. So I'm invested in them, but then they ask those questions of me, and I answer them. And so we end up with sort of a personal relationship. But working in a one-on-one tutoring program can be kind of isolating for the volunteer, because it's just the pair every week meeting, and no one else in their life really understands what they're doing and what they're going through. And so I encourage them to write me, to call me, whatever it is that they feel comfortable doing, to let me know how it's going. I want to hear the good stories, the bad stories, the questions, comments, whatever kind of feedback they have. I just want them to know that every single volunteer that I work with is special and unique, and that I appreciate them.
I have like a community development kind of background, and it's really important to me that our students who go out into different Grand Rapids organizations and neighborhoods and communities understand what the dynamics are in that place, and that they are going into a set of dynamics that's already happening. It's like a stream that's already flowing, that they are coming into something. And so what I love to hear back from students is what they've learned about being there and what they've learned about a community. This is this sort of magical age period of 18 to 22 where they're just breaking out of wherever they've come from, and I think that you have a lot to offer them in terms of inspiring them to see what life is like maybe in a different place than where they came from, and to hear the stories of the people that they're working with and your stories that you hold from, you know, your years of work. And so my biggest hope for you all as organization staff is, again, that you inspire them, and that you, just take this platform and brag about your organization or about the community or like about the really great stuff that's happening in this place, because I think a lot of students come into an organization or a community with some fear and some just not knowing what to expect. And so it's so important to show them like the assets and the strengths of the people that they're working with, and just to sort of round out for them whatever thoughts they might have had going in. And that's where like the growth happens for our students in development and turnaround in terms of like, I thought this when I came in, and now I know that these are the real issues. It's not what I thought it was. So that's really, really important for college student volunteers.
I think that was really good, Megan. And I think that's true of all volunteers. And I think that's a lot of what you get back is you grow yourself. And so to say that that's something you should be aware of, that's something you should be aware of for everybody. And you want to give them that. The other thing I was going to mention is that I think from the time you meet a volunteer, you need to be looking for what is their motivation to come to your organization, and then try to meet that, try to meet the need that they had or the desire that they had in coming to you. Maybe it was because they were really passionate about your mission, or maybe it's for another reason. And I'll give you a little story here quickly. I was working in Kansas as the director of a welfare to work program, and I was very, very attached to my community. I was involved in everything. So my husband and I moved up to Grand Rapids, and I don't know anybody, I have no connections. And so I chose volunteering as my entry into that world. And so I went to work for an organization that I was passionate about, and they gave me a task. But they didn't allow me to talk to any of the staff or meet anybody, or, so that didn't meet my need at all. And so that didn't last very long. So if they would have understood more about me and my motivation, they would have, treated me different as a volunteer. So again, just be thinking of what motivated them. What are they looking for in your organization?
My two things are flexibility in relationship and being able to build upon that relationship with that person.
Well, I feel really inspired by everything you've said today, and hopefully we have some great questions from you all. So we have about 12 minutes to chat. If any of you have questions, we'll open up the floor.
Thank you.
I work at the Hispanic Center in Western Michigan. A lot of our programs have very specific requirements. You have to be Spanish speaking, or you must have a social work background. But we get a lot of people from colleges or high schools or even third graders who want to come volunteer at our organization, but we might not have something that fits what they're looking for, so it's really difficult to turn somebody away. So what is your experience with that, and how do you handle that type of situation when they're really excited to get going?
We get volunteers that want to come and work with kids, or they just want to do something And if they don't fit working with kids, we refer them over to the Senior Companion Program, or we refer them over to our Adult Day Program, or we refer them to United Way. We refer them out. We don't just say, oh, well, we don't have anything. We try to get them involved someplace.
You can send it to us down the street.
We always have stuff for them to do.
That's something that we struggle with in the adult tutoring program because our commitment from tutors is 1 year, 2 hours a week, and we don't have a lot of flexibility in that. And so one thing that we do is refer people to other programs, or maybe they're confused about working with an adult and they'd rather work with a child, and so generally I refer them to Schools of Hope if they want flexibility and to work with kids. But we are working on developing other opportunities because we understand that we don't want to turn people away if they can't work for a year with us. So right now we're looking at half-day experiences, full day, maybe 1 month, 3 months. So if we get somebody interested, so they come for a half-day experience, then maybe they can go up this ladder. But I feel comfortable doing external referrals for volunteers because I know that the community as a whole is going to benefit from that volunteer, and I just want to make sure that I find the right fit for that person, so whatever they're doing, they're enjoying.
I would share something that I picked up from a visit I made to a mentoring program in Rochester, New York. And this individual that was running their mentoring program had his logo was a mentor-mentee match, and it was surrounded by a golden circle. And his question was, how can you support mentoring? So it wasn't about just that relationship, it was about all the other things somebody might do to create a circle of support around that mentoring program. So he had people doing amazing things. I mean, it was like he met a person and he would ask that question, well, what could you do to support mentoring? And they might say, well, I have a restaurant, so I could do, you know, and it was just amazing how many things were coming out of that that wasn't that particular match. It was something completely different that brought something to the program. So I thought that was really, really intriguing.
We have, because we rely on so many volunteers every day, because we have to meet 5,400, we have to make these meals each day. So our schedule is kind of booked out. Oftentimes, it can be up to a month before somebody could actually come in on site and volunteer. So what we do is we offer off-site projects. You could make trail mix for us. You could decorate bags. So there's other ways you can engage into our mission before you come on site, and just coming on site just further enriches your experience within our organization. We also do referrals as well. If we can't meet a specific need, we sometimes often refer to Feeding America and stuff like that. So.
Another question?
I have a question. Speaking to those offsite projects, I work at Amway.
Oh,
and we've got groups
fantastic.
that do the trail mix regularly,
Yes.
and then we do the bag decorating and all that. My question is, I know you have your Volunteer Appreciation Day. Is there anything else that you guys ever do for these groups that do this ongoing work, or anything we work together to kind of recognize them?
Yes. We actually just
Okay.
launched what we call our Community Partner Program, and it actually falls under our fund development. It's organizational wide, but it's also you're represented in the ways you give. So it's time, money, and food.
Okay.
So yes, Amway is definitely one of those partners. And it's more promotional. We'll put your website on a link to your website on our website. In our operations, I'm not sure if you've been on site, we have logos of the people that have supported us. And something new that we started is a window cling. So you'll be getting a window cling put at your facility saying you're a supporter of our mission. Just kind of some different ways that we can, we do a Thankful Thursday on social media, and we'll shout out to people that have, really made an impact. So there's a lot of different ways. I'm probably giving away something, but we started doing these, we call them sack attacks. And so so don't be surprised if you come out to know, but what we do is big companies that have supported us, or individuals. We've gone to our the woman that does all of our printing for us on our marketing materials, and we go and we make, it's a huge deal. Staff dresses up, we have balloons, we go and we just, it's a total surprise. And it's kind of nerdy, but we have so much fun. And it just catches people off guard. They're like, oh, thanks. But it's just a way, we can show appreciation. They don't know we're coming, we come, we leave, and it's not a big deal. So yeah, we just started doing that, and we've done a few. We have plans to do more. So, but yeah, it's just a fun way for us to kind of connect with the people that have supported us. So, yeah, good question.
I would say that nobody does it better than Kids Food Basket. I've gotten thank you notes on little brown bags and in the mail, and I remember one Christmas, I'm sitting there and I get a call from the founder of Kids Food Basket, Mary Kay Hood, thanking me, and I thought, will these people never stop? It's just like, they really do it very well.
We're very creative. Yeah, we have a very creative team.
So why don't we take one more question for this fabulous panel of experts here. Well, I have a question if no one else does, but I don't want to take up the spotlight. Well, my question goes back to the question of inclusion. When in our research with the Community Literacy Initiative, we really hear from a lot of our community partners, especially in the Hope Zones, that we're not seeing volunteers coming from the Hope Zones working with kids and families in their communities. So I thought it was interesting, Peggy, when you said that you were getting that.
Oh, yes.
And I guess I don't even know where to start in asking a question about that, other than how should we go about empowering our community members in those neighborhoods?
So one of the things, this is very new to us. I'm going to give that warning. We just started working on a diversity and inclusion initiative, and it's really being driven in probably the last 6 months. But one of the areas, we have a program called Kids Helping Kids, and what it is it gives any kid from any neighborhood, any community, the opportunity to be a part of our mission. So this actually Monday, Martin Luther King Day, a team of us, 3 people from our organization, went into a service school and did a project. And these kids were so excited to give back. So we were like, you're putting pretzels into a bag, but you're gonna get to see these again because they're gonna be in your sack supper. So it was just, they were so excited to be a part of the mission. But I think it's taking that in and doing that in different communities. A big thing is, you're walking alongside of us. This childhood hunger affects all of us. It's a community problem with a community solution, and we really need everyone behind us on this. We struggle, from a paternalistic standpoint of, how that's perceived in communities. So we're really being very intentional around that, and kind of going out into communities and talking and having that dialogue. So yeah, it's kind of a new journey for us, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think it's really important to have a lot of diversity on your staff, and the more you work toward that, the more helpful that will be. And also, when you're interviewing somebody, whether it's for a position or for a volunteer, I think there should be a diverse person on the team. I think that really I mean, it's just all those little things that show that you're a culture that understands the importance of diversity and inclusion. And if you really understand that, then I just think it happens so much more naturally.
I would say two things. One is that I think it's really important for organizations to listen to their communities and to maybe ask the client if they know someone who would be able to be a literacy coach or whatever the case may be. And to acknowledge those, like the networks that do exist and the wealth that there is present in a community. I think in a college there might be some like targeted marketing that would have to be done, and like find the certain offices where, you know, like our multicultural student development office has for several years done their Christmas party around supporting Harrison Park School and their Challenge Scholars program, which has been like a really beautiful partnership for them and for other offices as well. But we also, at a college that does not have a huge student of color population, we need to be sensitive to like tokenizing or like tapping those students too much and saying like, this is your responsibility. So for us, it has to do a lot with providing like education and training all of our students and all of our student leaders about the value of diversity and racial justice, and again to sort of think about like what's going on here beyond whatever the problem is that you see. So there's like a real balance there in terms of like, oh, you look like this, so you should do this kind of work. Because we really want to create allies across all demographics or barriers or whatever.
I think having a presence in the areas where our learners are living is huge, which is why I appreciate meetings in the Hope Zone so much. But I definitely agree with Jane that having a diverse staff is very important to connecting to those groups.
I wonder too if we could.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about Peggy's program and the ability to provide stipends and the ability to give the gift cards. There's maybe where there's some creative space to think about these things, because what if part of your circle of support for that program was providing those incentives for the tutors and the mentors or whatever? And you know, maybe a volunteer opportunity in a company could be, we're having some sort of a drive or Jeans Day or whatever, so that we can provide incentives so that we can attract more people that may be needing or wanting these incentives to come and be a part of our volunteer program. I should mention too about My GR City Points. That is something we're really trying to get going in this community, and it does offer rewards. And one of the rewards that people can get is bus passes. So we need to start really thinking about using programs like that to incentivize people and to reward people for behaviors that we want in our community. So I'm working with Jasmine Olson at the city, a fabulous person who wants to really drive this in the city. And so we would want you to post eligible rewards. If you have, you know, those tutoring opportunities, those should be rewards eligible, so that people can sign up and earn those coupons, discounts, or whatever when they do their volunteer work.
And Peggy, why don't you close out for us? Let us know your experience.
Because we are in the Hope Zone, and even before there were Hope Zones, we were in the inner city schools because we know the needs are there. But I'm not going to just categorize the inner city schools, the needs in all schools. I mean, they would have never thought about Sparta or Kentwood or Wyoming schools. Their needs are just as great as they are in the inner city schools. A lot of our volunteers come from the inner city, so it's easier for us to place them back in their own neighborhoods than to have them go all over the place. Now, sometimes that's not feasible, and we may send them a little bit out, but we like the fact that they live there, they see the kids in school, they see the kids after school, they see the kids on weekends.
Right.
They become a big part of the community family, and the kids really respond to that. Because they know if you do something in school, grandma knows who you are. Grandma, you know? And if they see you outside doing something, grandma will still know who you are. So, and they will not hesitate to chastise you or say something to you, whether you're in school or out. And our kids really, really need that, because it seems as though a lot of them are on their own. We look at latchkey kids in the afternoon, on their own. So after school programming, having someone that, you know, my grandma lived down the street, you know, I better not do that or whatever. And we're not trying there to put the fear of God in those kids. Sometimes they need it, right? But we're not there to do that. We're there to say, I'm in your neighborhood and I'm gonna support you. You know, I see you at school, I care about what you do. It's not just going to your school to say, you here, you learn this. No, I wanna make sure that you're using what you're learning. So that piece have really made a big difference for us. And it's not all minorities that live in the community. You know, we have a diverse group of volunteers living in certain communities, and we still place them right where they live. It's a win-win situation for us.
Thank you so much. So what I hear, and I'm thankful for this, is that working with volunteers successfully really means working with people and relationship building. So it's kind of a relief for us as people. We all know how to do that, so it's a good thing. I wanted to remind all of you, of course, we're at time, so if you do have needs or opportunities for the rest of the people in this room, please write them down on this clipboard. Feel free to chat with our panelists, and I want to give a special thank you to Gerontology Network and all of our panelists, if we can give them a round of applause.